Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What can this slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. With I'm gonna burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. What the slump yesterday is. The slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you for Bettor Off Dead, Sunday, November 9th. Thanks for hanging out, guys, for the football show last night, the NFL show. We got 3 NFL plays for today, so you can go back and see the analysis on that. No football plays in the stupid Berlin game involving my Indianapolis Colts that just kicked off, although the market read looks like it's against the Colts. I had struggled to figure out what I thought about that game, so we'll see what happens in that game. I don't like this NFL board. I don't like the numbers that ESPN is giving us and pigs can pick them. They're not really the most beneficial numbers for some of the sides that I like, so I don't like it. I'm going to add some plays here. I'm going to have 3 college basketball plays, and I'm actually trying to restrain myself because I was close to having like 5, even though it's not even that big of a card. Like a typical Sunday for me in college basketball is usually like maybe 2, but I think the board is maybe a little bit bigger than I thought it would be. I'm going to have 2 hockey plays, and I'm skipping NBA. I don't like the NBA board at all today, so that's what we're going to do today. Jeffrey, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. Let's jump into it, man. After a 6-7 day yesterday, if you want to see my rant about that, you can go to the NFL show from last night. I don't want to repeat that, but I will say that we're a half point away from a winning day with 7-6, which should have happened, because if you have a +6.5 underdog, Auburn, who is covering almost wire to wire and takes the game into overtime, you should have that one right, but we did not get that one right. I'm just sick of losing all these plays on Auburn. I'm sick of losing plays against Vandy. It's bullshit, man. College basketball. Let's get right into it, man. The whole show is going to be a best bets segment. How about that? The first game up is maybe my favorite, because this is one game where like both sides of this matchup all lead me in one direction here, and that is we're going to go with Western Michigan +8 against Campbell. Yes, this is Western Michigan's first true road game, I believe, so sometimes I don't want to play a team when they're going on the road for the first time, but they're getting points here, and I just think this is a bad setup here. Campbell has moved up to the 8 from 7.5. Don't really see any percentages yet, but Western Michigan, I mean, they're the next team that everybody's making fun of after Boise State, which Boise State did bounce back nicely with a win and cover yesterday for us. Western Michigan's in somewhat of a similar spot to that because they lost to Northwood in their second game. And yes, I know Western Michigan is not a good team. They barely beat Coastal Carolina in their first game. But this is just embarrassing, man, losing to Northwood, Michigan, whatever that is. I guess that's what that is. Division II team at home. Western Michigan, there wasn't even a line on this game. Western Michigan was definitely a big favorite in this game. But, Northwood is an in-state little brother, so you got to think they stepped up their game a little bit. One thing that does kind of concern me a little bit is that there wasn't like a shooting percentage outlier here. Western Michigan actually did outshoot Northwood here and still lost the game, but it was all because of turnovers pretty much. 22 turnovers. I mean, that's something that you can kind of clean up, man. Like, that has to do more with discipline than anything else. So I do think that that's correctable. Western Michigan did out-rebound Northwood at least. So there are some things that I like to see that are in there. So I do think Western Michigan is worth a look here. And on the other side, Campbell, yes, this is their home opener, so normally I wouldn't want to play on a team in their home opener. Yeah, they're 0-2 because they lost at Wisconsin and at West Virginia. Those are not easy games to start out the season. So, yes, they're not as bad as their record looks. But look at what they did against West Virginia, man. They're 15.5-point favorites. They went into West Virginia, into Morgantown, and they actually were in this game late in the game. Like, this game was close in the second half, and it was as close as a 4-point game, I think, later in the game. Yeah, it was 64-60 with a minute and a half left. So Campbell was not going away in this game, and they were pretty close to pulling off this upset. So I think they're going to be in a bit of a hangover spot after that, man. Whenever you have a huge underdog that, like, plays their guts out like that against one of the big boys and they fall just short, and then they flip to being a favorite in the next game and a fairly substantial one, I think you want to look to go against that team. So we have both sides lining up for this, where I think, on the other hand, Western Michigan, they're an underdog now after they played really poorly as a favorite. So I think they're going to show up with some more focus here. Yes, we all know Campbell is the better team. We know Western Michigan's terrible, but I'm going to go with it. I don't remember what the number was that KenPom had on this. KenPom does have Western Michigan as the 283rd team, which is not good, obviously. And he's got Campbell better than that at 200th, but that's still not great. Campbell is more of a slowdown team. So a lot of times I will lean towards the home team that has the tempo disparity. But in this case, you're asking the slowdown team to lay points. And I don't think that's a good idea either. And Campbell is not very prolific offensively. So everything kind of lines up for this one. We'll take Western Michigan plus the points here. You don't like NBA either. Knicks and Pistons are on winning streaks. Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Knicks are going to lose to the Brooklyn Nets outright. I will point that out. Whether or not they cover is a different story. The Pistons, I think they're a big favorite today too, maybe too big. You have Miami in, Miami Dolphins. Hell yeah. That is one of my NFL plays, yeah. Hopefully, I don't know if it's going to get to 10 or not, but yeah, hopefully we get that one. Thanks for hanging out, Jeffrey. Have a good day today, man. All right. Next up, one of the big games. We're in the afternoon slate here still. We do have Indiana at Marquette, or not at Marquette. This is actually in a neutral site in Chicago. They're playing at the United Center, which is the Bulls arena. So this is actually a neutral site game, basically halfway-ish. It's actually, I think, kind of closer to Marquette because Marquette is somewhere like in the Milwaukee area, I'm pretty sure. And Indiana, of course, is in the middle of Indiana. So maybe a slight edge in the venue to Marquette, but maybe not because both of these teams are going to show up. Like, their fan bases, these fan bases are going to travel, and probably Indiana's travels better because they have such a history. So I do think it is a fair, like, neutral site game here. Indiana is up to a 3-point favorite. They were 1.5, and I think the money has moved them to 3, so the market is indicating that Indiana is the side in this one. 61% of tickets, 64% of the cash. I don't really have a situational angle on this, so I think both teams are going to show up, so it's just kind of a matter of which one of these teams is the better team. Indiana, they've been really good at football, as we know, but they just escaped yesterday, but they haven't been as good at basketball recently. They've, I think, missed the tournament the last couple of years, and I think Marquette has at least made the tournament the last few years, so I think Marquette kind of has that air around them that they're the better team recently, even though Indiana has all this history. But I think that is also going to kind of lend itself to, like, maybe you actually get some value on Indiana here. Maybe they're actually under the radar a little bit because they've been the lesser of these two teams in college basketball the last few years. So that's all I can really say about it. I don't disagree with Indiana. I'm assuming that KenPom probably has Indiana as the better team as well. He does. He has them about 14 ranking spots higher. Indiana is also a slow-paced team where Marquette is a faster-paced team, and it is easier to slow the game down. So Indiana might be able to try to control the pace here and slow it down. And you're not really asking them to lay that many points here either, so maybe another check mark for Indiana there. All right. Next up, I'm going to give you another play here. I'm basically just going to talk about my plays and my almost plays here and the couple of big games that are out there. We're going to lay the points with Bowling Green. As ridiculous as this looks, they're about a 13-point favorite, 13.5. They're actually down to 11.5, so it looks like the money is kind of coming against them. So actually, let me change that right now. I think you can get them at 11.5, and I like that. I think Ken Bum kind of has them winning by right in that margin, somewhere around 11. I don't like that the number has moved down, but I think this is a spot to fade Moines, man. The Moines Dolphins. So this is a Dolphins team that we're going to fade, unlike the Miami one today. Moines, they're fairly new to I almost said FBS, to Division One. I think Moines was new to Division One last year. They're in the Northeastern Conference, which is not a very good conference, but they just played really, really well against Xavier in their last game, and they shot really crazy, 52.9% from the field. I know Xavier had a really good three-point percentage in the game, so that's something that I would look for Moines' opponent to regress in the three-point department. But Moines, I don't think they're going to be able to shoot 53% from the field again here, but they were able to do that against Xavier, and they only lost by 5 as 24.5-point underdogs at Xavier. They took Xavier basically to the limit. They were within 2 possessions late in this game. It was a 4-point game in the final couple of minutes. So Moines, just like I said with Campbell, man, Moines really, really played a great game here and came close to being able to pull off a huge upset over Xavier. Now, off of that, they got to go on the road and go to Bowling Green. I know it's not that much travel between Xavier and Bowling Green, but I don't like it, man. And you could argue that maybe they'll even pay more attention to UMass coming up next, because UMass is kind of more in Moines' area of the country, I guess, if you want to call it that, in the Northeast. And UMass is in a better conference, the Atlantic 10. They've been somewhat of a decent team in the Atlantic 10 recently, whereas Bowling Green, they're in the MAC, and they really have not been a great basketball team. So it is possible Moines overlooks Bowling Green. The odds makers are still telling you which team is the substantially better team, and that is still Bowling Green here. Bowling Green is 2-0, although they face a fairly easy schedule so far. Although Texas State, actually, I don't think they've been that bad recently in basketball, and Bowling Green did absolutely annihilate them. And yes, they put up a ton of points against the Division II teams, so sometimes they look to fade teams like that because they face weak competition and they look maybe better than they actually are. But Bowling Green was only a 5.5-point favorite in that game against Texas State. And yeah, there were some real statistical outliers here. Bowling Green outshot Texas State by a crazy margin, so it was a bit of an outlier. But they did out-rebound them too. So the fact that they beat that better team in Texas State, they should, in my opinion, be able to handle Moines here as well. Moines not as good as Texas State. And then if you look at, Ken Bum's rankings here, he actually has Bowling Green as not a terrible MAC team at 139th in the country. That's not too bad. He has them fairly decent defensively, like close to cracking the top 100 right now, although I know it's early, so these stats that Ken Bum has, they're going to be shifting around a lot. And he does have Bowling Green as a faster-paced team. Moines likes to play a little bit slower. They're in the slower third, basically, of teams for the most part. And Moines, you can see the rankings here right now. Ken Bum is not giving them any respect. They're at 318th in the country overall. They're almost in the bottom 60 or so in both offense and defense, and they are in the bottom 40 in defense, so not a good defense. So even though Bowling Green, I was going to say Bowling Green could actually speed this game up a little bit, which I like, playing a favorite when they might speed the tempo up a little bit, because that's going to help them cover more easily, and the fact that Moines is not a good defensive team. So I think that game against Xavier does play fast too, typically, but maybe we don't know what Xavier really is yet, because I think they lost their coach, right? Sean Miller went to Texas this year, so we don't really know what Xavier is going to look like this year. I think we do kind of know what Bowling Green is going to be doing this year, so yeah, we're going to lay it with Bowling Green in that one. All right, what else do we have going on here? I will say, I like Dartmouth against Marist. This has not made my card, but Marist, they're coming off almost beating Xavier too, but maybe Xavier is just not that good right now, man. I mean, Xavier going through some growing pains right now, maybe. This was a game where Xavier was only a 12.5-point favorite, because Marist, they were actually one of the best teams in the MAC conference last year, and though they weren't able to win it, they're actually kind of a team on the upswing. Although this was still a big game for Marist, and they almost pulled off the upset at Xavier. They were actually winning the game late in the game. In the final couple minutes, Marist actually had a lead in the game. They fell just short. Xavier played pretty poorly as far as the shooting went. They were only 34% from the field. So Xavier really, really shot poorly. So that's, again, a bit of a statistical anomaly there that would lead me to say that Marist probably did a little bit better than they should have in this game. And they shot well, 47.7% from the field, which is maybe a little bit of an outlier as well. So I'm looking to fade Marist coming off of that. My only problem here is, yeah, they're going to Dartmouth. It's another road game for Marist, which is not going to be that easy. It's a bit of travel going from Cincinnati up to New Hampshire. But Dartmouth still actually hasn't even played a game yet. So that's what worries me about this a little bit, is you have a Dartmouth team coming in cold, whereas at least Marist has a game under their belt. Although, again, Marist almost pulled off that upset. So I would still be looking to Dartmouth in this one. And the money, well, the line move at least agreed with Dartmouth moving to a 1-point favorite, although we see 50% of tickets, 66% of the cash on Marist now. It's very hard to try to make these reads on college basketball early in the day. So that's really all I have to say about that, but I would lean to Dartmouth in that one, but it has not made my card just because I don't really love taking teams that are coming in cold and still haven't played yet. Because there could be some, like they could start off a bit slow. Nate, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. All right. Next up, we do have a game on ESPN2 between Texas A&M and Oklahoma State. So, former Big 12 matchup here. Now SEC versus Big 12. Texas A&M, of course, has been the better of these two teams recently, although they've been pretty bad offensively. They've been good defensively and a good rebounding and physical team, but they haven't been able to score well. They're off to a 2-0 start, but they basically beat two cupcakes, so there's nothing to really take away from that. And this is their first true road game, so some concerns here. This game is still in the afternoon today, by the way. Oklahoma State, they had one win so far in the season at home against Oral Roberts, so this is not going to be their home opener, but they are staying at home. I think maybe Oklahoma State could be a little bit under the radar here because they've been the worst of these two teams recently, so Texas A&M maybe getting a little bit too much respect, but they are up from 1.5 to 2 here. 60% of tickets, 92% of the cash. So the money is actually saying Texas A&M here, but I might tend to slightly disagree with that. Ken Bum does still have them ranked pretty high at 31st in the country. Surprisingly, he has them as a very fast tempo team, so maybe Texas A&M is not the same team that we saw last year, so that's interesting. He has Oklahoma State all the way down at 72nd. He has them as an extreme fast tempo team, which that doesn't surprise me. But I still think Texas A&M likes to play a little bit slower. And if Oklahoma State wants to speed it up, like that might throw Texas A&M off a little bit. But I'll have to see, man, because maybe Texas A&M is changing their identity this year. They are still the better team. I don't want anything to do with this game, obviously. But Market Reed says Texas A&M in that one. I slightly disagree, but I'm going to leave it alone. All right. What else do we have? We have Montana State, by the way. I was looking to maybe fade them because they played well against Colorado on the road to start the season, but then they had a Division II opponent in the middle there, and they got a win, so I think that's going to kind of alleviate the concerns with, like, the hangover spot or whatever for Montana State. Now they're hosting Denver here. Denver's faced a difficult schedule so far, facing Seattle and Washington, both on the road. Both games in Seattle, and now they're playing another road game. Montana State, and this one's down from 9.5 to 7.5, though, so the money's still coming in on the Denver side. I don't really have a read on the game, though. Like, I would look to fade Montana State if they're immediately coming off that big game that they played against Colorado. But as it stands right now, I don't really have an opinion. Denver, I believe, did cover in their last game against Washington. They lost by 14. Yeah, it's 27.5-point underdogs. So Denver is coming off at least playing a pretty competitive game against Washington. So you could maybe make some arguments against Denver. Lehigh and West Virginia, I would lay the points with West Virginia here. This is the other one that is close to making my card that hasn't. So the two, if I was going to add those two additional plays, it would be Dartmouth minus the 1 or whatever, or money line, and West Virginia minus the points. Because West Virginia, they're coming off that very unimpressive showing, like I already mentioned, against Campbell. It does worry me that Campbell shot really poorly, and they still out-rebounded West Virginia, although I am fading Campbell today, of course, as a favorite, because I think they're in just a different role. But I'm still worried about West Virginia, that maybe they're not very good right now. West Virginia, again, was a 15.5-point favorite in this one. But, Campbell shot terribly in the game. West Virginia still almost lost, so that's not great. But I still think they're going to want to bounce back here. They're staying at home. They probably won't take Lehigh for granted here because West Virginia, when you're a team like West Virginia, you almost lost that other game to an inferior team. You're probably going to want to focus on that next team, even if you think they are inferior. Lehigh is their opponent here. Lehigh's coming off a win over a Division II team after Lehigh started the season at Houston. I mean, obviously they weren't expected to win that game, although they actually played fairly well, losing that game only by 18. So I'm pretty sure they covered the number in that one. Then they were able to get their first win of the season against Valley Forge, George Washington, whatever. Lehigh now going back out on the road to Morgantown, though, not going to be that easy to do. I like West Virginia in this one. That's the way that I would play the game if I was going to do it. Some hesitations, whether the line already dropped from 19 to 17.5, so some money looks like it came in and knocked that line down. Although, again, it looks like the same thing happened with one of my plays, so it's very hard to make reads early on, man, with some of these games here. It's kind of hard to read the market in some of these, but hopefully we're going to get these right just reading the situation. So, that's all I'll say about that, basically. What was the other favorite that I had? I already forget. I already forget what the other favorite was that I had. Oh, yeah, it was Bowling Green. Yeah. Bowling Green also a little bit more of an under-the-radar team. Yeah, we'll see what happens with that, but I don't like that the line moved down on Bowling Green. All right, and then my last play is going to be on Loyola Chicago plus the 1.5. Although it looks like you might have to lay a point now. This line is on the move, so it's moving in the right direction, at least. As Loyola Chicago actually was a 3.5-point underdog, and they're already a 1-point favorite here. Yes, North Texas is the better team, but I don't think they're that much the better team. 70% of tickets, 99% of the cash coming in on Loyola, and I think this is a spot for Loyola to kind of get right here. I would play them, money line, whatever, -1, +1, +1.5. The line's somewhere in that range. Still anywhere in the range where you're taking them to, you're picking the winner, basically, I think is okay in this one. North Texas, we know what they are. They're a very good defense, and they're an extreme slowdown team, but they have not been tested yet. Like, this is going to be their most difficult game. This game is actually not at Loyola Chicago, I guess. This game is in Hoffman Estates, Illinois, I guess. Is this at Loyola Chicago? I don't even know. I don't think it is, but it's basically a semi-home game for Loyola Chicago here. It's in the Chicago area at the very least. It's just not at their home arena. So North Texas, they played both their games at home so far. And again, they haven't been tested. They faced a Division II team and then Northwestern State, who's really bad. So there's nothing you can really take away from what North Texas has done so far. And after this game, they got Oregon State and St. Mary's. And they might actually have more focus on those games because Loyola Chicago has not been good in recent years. And Oregon State, they're still one of those former Pac-12 teams. St. Mary's has been really good recently. I mean, they're usually pretty good. So it's possible that North Texas kind of has their eye on those games. I think those are bigger games for them. Loyola kind of under the radar right now because they haven't played well this season. They almost lost at home as 17.5-point favorites to Cleveland State. And this is a game where it's kind of a bad indicator that Cleveland State completely demolished Loyola on the boards in this game. So I don't love that because the shooting percentages were close in the game, and Cleveland lost the turnover battle. Cleveland State lost the turnover battle really badly, and Loyola still wound up barely winning the game. Although Loyola was pulling away, like in the second half, they were winning this game by double digits with 6-something minutes left. And then I think, took their foot off the gas maybe too early. So maybe the game was a little bit misleading that way too. So I'm not going to worry about that too much now. But what happened with Loyola Chicago in their last game? They were 21.5-point favorites, and they had a terrible shooting game against Mercyhurst. Loyola only shot 37.7% from the field in this game. And in this game, they lost the turnover battle. And yes, they lost the rebounding battle as well. But I think they're going to have to bounce back from this, man, because, yes, maybe Loyola is not as good as we thought they were to start the season, but I don't really see them being this far down after they've actually been an okay team over the last couple of years, like in the mix in their conference at least. It looks like they've been overvalued in the market so far, but I think now we're at least getting them as at a price where I don't think they're being overvalued anymore here, as they're shifting from being a huge favorite in 2 games to being almost an underdog here. So I think we are at least not getting an overvalued Loyola team anymore. But coming off a loss like that, where Loyola didn't shoot well, which they can certainly fix that. That was a bit of an outlier. Losing to this Mercyhurst team that's new to Division I as of like last year, that's embarrassing, man. So I think Loyola, it's going to be good for them, and maybe it'll be good for them to play somewhere in the area, but not in their home arena right now. Just maybe kind of forget about what's going on at home. On campus, basically just get out of there, but still play with your crowd in that area. They should be playing better right now for Sister Jean, man, RIP. But, yeah, I like Loyola on this one, so that's the other play there. Stacks, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. All right, NHL, we're going to have a couple of plays here. Oh, actually, wait. There were a couple other games I was going to talk about here. My mistake. We do have Florida Atlantic and Liberty are playing in this, like, whatever this is, this round-robin tournament, which is actually at Liberty. It's being hosted by Liberty. Liberty probably has a little bit of an edge here, not just because they're at home, but they didn't play yesterday, and FAU did play yesterday. So both of these teams beat Charleston. So now I think this is the final of this, like, weird round-robin thing that they're doing here, where FAU and Liberty both beat Charleston. So now they're playing each other. But FAU on a back-to-back, whereas Liberty didn't play yesterday. So both teams now used to the arena. I think Liberty does have the edge. They're up from 6 to 6.5 here. So don't really have much else to say besides that. But the money seems to be coming in on Liberty. And then tonight on ESPN at 8:30 p.m. Eastern, Washington and Baylor. Kind of an interesting game. A little bit under the radar here. These are all right teams. I mean, we don't really know exactly what these teams are yet because Washington's coming off 2 easy games. They do have their rival, Washington State, next, but I don't think Washington's going to overlook Baylor on a nationally televised game, man. I mean, this is a big game. Baylor is a big name in basketball, so I think they'll get up for this game. But Washington, first time traveling away from home, I think, and out of the Pacific time zone, so kind of difficult to have your first road game here. Baylor, difficult opponent, obviously. Neither of these teams have any impressive wins so far. They've had easy opponents so far, but Baylor, they're staying at home here, so the travel spot is a bit easier for Baylor. So there are some reasons to like Baylor here, although the money's coming in against them. Baylor's down from 7.5 to 5.5 here. 71% of tickets, 96% of the cash coming in on Washington. So the money is saying Washington. I really wouldn't want to do it because Washington, they are having to travel, like I said, so it makes it a bit difficult first road game. So I kind of think that there's a little bit of an edge maybe towards Baylor in that respect. But Baylor has been the better team, so they're potentially getting overvalued in the market because Baylor has been that, better team recently. Everybody remembers them being in the tournament like virtually every year. Washington, not really the case with them. So I think Baylor does get a little bit more respect from the public bettors right now than maybe they should. Baylor also is a slow-paced team, so asking them to lay points is a little bit more difficult, although you're not asking them to lay that much here. I think Washington also plays somewhat slow as well, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see what happens there. Although Baylor will almost certainly try to slow the pace down. Baylor's one of those weird teams where they slow the pace down, but they actually don't play very well defensively. So kind of a strange, I don't know, like it's just a strange style of play for Baylor there. So I apologize. I'm losing my my Garmin cover here. I'll get it back on my watch later. But yeah, so those are my thoughts on that game. Let's move to NHL here, which I don't even have up right now. Oh, I apologize. I hadn't zoomed in on the schedule here. NHL, we're going to have 2 plays here. I don't know if I want to hit every single one of these games, but I will say Chicago at Detroit in the afternoon here. Chicago, they got that win over Calgary, man, which I thought that was kind of a bad spot for Chicago after they pulled off that nice upset over Vancouver. And now they're finishing a long road trip. They've won their last 2 games. They got to go to Detroit. I think it looks like a difficult spot to me for Chicago here. And then they have New Jersey when they come back home after this. Sure, they're going to try to be focused for Detroit because Detroit's been good so far, but I think Chicago might maybe potentially run out of steam a little bit at the end of this road trip. Detroit is still the better team, and Detroit is staying at home, and they're in a second game back home. And I talk about that type of scheduling spot where I went against Detroit in their game back home because They're in a bad spot returning home. As I always talk about, it tends to be a little bit of a distracted spot when you return back home. The Rangers have been a very good road team, and that continued last night as the Rangers got shut out yet again at home, and I gave out the Islanders in that game. So we're going to keep riding that ridiculous home road dichotomy for the Rangers, but that came into play here. Rangers were able to beat Detroit. That was a win for us on the show. But now that Detroit has had their time, at home to get stuff done at home, whatever they need to get done, throw those distractions out of the way. After losing to the Rangers, I think they're going to refocus here. So I expect a focused Red Wings team here. Probably not good news for a team that might be getting a little bit tired being on the road this long. So I do like Detroit in this one, and the money agrees. Chicago at 52% of the tickets. Detroit up from -175 to -178. 90% of the cash on Detroit. So I agree. The market agrees with me. I would play Detroit maybe to win in regulation if you want to play that one. Kings, Pittsburgh, let's just get into it right now. This will be one of my plays, and we're going to go with the Kings to win this game in regulation because the line is really, it's not really high, but it is a little bit too high, so I wanted to knock that price down as they're in like the -150-something range on the money line here. So you can knock the price down to about +100, even money, to get them to win in regulation. So that's what I'm going to do, even though I know these regulation plays haven't worked out for me so far. I mean, if you want to make your own -1 puck line, you could do that as well with part of the money on the -1.5, part of the money on the money line. And then if they win by exactly 1, you'll push. So you could do that too. But I like the Kings in this spot. And the odds makers are telling you something, man. With the fact that the Kings are 6-5-4 versus a 9-4-3 Pittsburgh team. And yet the Kings are getting all this respect in the market. They're the worst record, but they're a -155 road favorite here. Well, why is that? I think that means that the Kings are a little bit better than they look right now. They've actually been good on the road, 5-1-2. They're not too bad on the road. Pittsburgh is good at home, though. I'll give them that, 4-1-1 at home. But the Kings, they've been definitely more than competitive on the road, so that's good. The Kings are coming off a fairly ugly loss at home, 5-2 to Florida. They've lost 3 of their last 4, but those are all pretty difficult opponents. Detroit, New Jersey, Winnipeg, Florida. Yes, those are all at home, but when things aren't working well at home, sometimes one of the best things you can do is just leave, get out of home, and just focus on hockey. And that's what LA is doing. And they've had 2 days off, too, to try to disrupt that losing momentum. So I think this is going to be a spot where they're going to be focused. And Pittsburgh, I believe, is actually worse than all 4 of those opponents that I just listed off that LA just faced at home. So I think LA is actually stepping down in class here to face Pittsburgh as well. It will be Kemper back in net, I assume, because Forsberg played the last game. So the Kings will have their better goalie in net as well. So things lining up pretty nicely for the Kings here. And then on the other side, Pittsburgh, I do not like the spot that they're in. They played 2 big games in a row, or actually multiple big games in a row. They've also been traveling all over the place as they went all the way up to Minnesota, Winnipeg, up to Toronto. They played tough against Toronto, only losing by 1. Came back home for a single home game, beat Washington somehow. Big win there, too, because Washington's been pretty good over the last couple of years. Went back out on the road, and they took New Jersey into a shootout, and that was yesterday. So they're on a back-to-back now with travel, coming back from New Jersey to Pittsburgh. Well, I know it's not a huge travel leg, but still, it's travel with no days off. And they're playing a 3rd game in 4 days. So while LA was off during that period of time, Pittsburgh did have that trip to New Jersey and played a really tough game. Now Pittsburgh's back home. They might have Jari back in net here instead of Silovs, which I don't love either of them. They both have decent numbers this year, but even still, I don't love either of them necessarily, so I don't really care which one of them it is. I think the spot's pretty bad. I think it's a letdown spot, back-to-back, 3rd game in 4 days with travel between the 2 games. Doesn't set up well for Pittsburgh, but it gets even worse because after Pittsburgh plays this game, they have to go play in Sweden on Friday, so they're going to have to hit the road and travel at some point. I assume they want to get out there early enough to adjust to the time zone because we have all this fucking international bullshit going on, just like the NFL Berlin game that's going on right now. I don't know why I have News Nation on right now. I think it's because I put the CW on last night to watch that Oregon State game finish there. But that's okay. I don't need sports behind me at all times. Yeah, but Pittsburgh, I think it's kind of a sandwich spot because that's a big deal when you get chosen to play in Sweden. You get to go out there. It's kind of a showcase. They're going to be playing Nashville out there. It's like, fuck Sweden, I guess, because it's like, hey, you guys, you get the Penguins and the Predators, who are not our best right now. So there you go. But I do think that's going to set up a bit of a look ahead here. I think the spot sets up way, way better for the Kings. The money's agreeing with me. The Kings, even though they dropped from minus 154 to minus 150, 75% of the cash on the Kings, 54% of the tickets on Pittsburgh. So the public, of course, I think will tend to side with the team with the better record, especially getting them at an underdog price. It almost looks way too easy, but nothing is that easy, man. We're going to go with the Kings in regulation in that one, and hopefully we get that done. Silovs is young. Yeah, I mean, should improve, I guess, but we're going to fade. We'll fade him right now, but I don't think he's going to be the goalie today anyway. I think it's going to be Jarry, however you pronounce his name, who I don't think is a very good goalie. So we're going to go against him. I still think Kemper is better than either goalie, though, at least as it stands right now. All right. Continuing with the NHL here. Let me see. What else do we have? As I'm off of the page again. I'm all over the place this morning, man. I apologize. Carolina, Toronto. This is maybe the best game on the hockey board today. I mean, both of these teams are pretty good. Toronto's, I think, under the radar right now. Though Toronto, as I pointed out, they have been not performing well this year, so I don't know. But they are still an original six team. Carolina's very good. Carolina played yesterday. They beat Buffalo easily. Single road game now going up to Toronto, but it is travel from Carolina up to Toronto. Toronto hasn't exactly been playing well, and Washington is going to be Carolina's next opponent, so they may actually even look ahead, as crazy as that might sound, just because Toronto hasn't been playing well recently. So we'll see. Carolina's been alternating between three different goaltenders, so I think maybe Bussy got hurt, so now Kochetkov has been their alternate goalie here. It's probably going to be Anderson back in net this time, but they've been resting him quite a bit. For Toronto, I mean, they do still have a winning record, though, and they're still an original six team, so maybe Carolina will still be focused on Toronto. Toronto is staying at home, though. They also played yesterday, but they had multiple days off prior to that, and they lost to my Boston Bruins yesterday. The Bruins playing all right now, man. The Bruins on a hot streak, so we'll see. Toronto tends to struggle against the Bruins for whatever reason, though they do have a revenge game against the Bruins on Tuesday in Boston, but they're not going to overlook Carolina. Carolina is one of the best teams in all of the NHL right now. So I think both teams are going to show up here. The money is indicating on on Toronto a little bit. I think I could see the argument basically being Carolina is in a travel spot here and Toronto isn't. Both teams playing yesterday. Toronto maybe in a little bit more of a bounce back spot because they lost yesterday. So I see the arguments for Toronto. I'm not going to disagree with that. I just don't feel very strongly about it. Carolina down from minus 130 to minus 129 on the money line. 58% of the tickets, 72% of the cash on Toronto. So money is coming into Toronto. Kings solid on the road. Not last year, I don't think. Last year, I think they were much better at home. The Kings were almost unbeatable at home last year. I don't know if they were really that good on the road, but I used that as part of my handicapping in the playoffs. I know I used the Kings. I went with them at home and against them on the road, basically, when it came to the playoffs, more or less. And I think I did okay in that King-Oilers series. I forget, though. Maybe I wasn't as good as I thought, but I know I had at least one win with the Kings at home early in that series. All right, Utah at Ottawa. Utah, of course, played yesterday, and they were one of our losses, which I'm still pissed about because the game was statistically nowhere near what it looked like on the scoreboard, with Utah losing 6-2. Montreal put up like 3 late goals. I don't know what the fuck happened in that game. Utah was winning the game like on the scoreboard, and they were winning the game statistically. I don't know, man. Utah had a 2-1 lead in the middle of the game. I'm pissed about it. Now Utah's coming off of that. They could be in a bounce back spot, traveling from Montreal to Ottawa, not an extreme travel leg at the very least. Maybe a little bit angry, trying to salvage a game on this road trip here, trying to even up the road trip and finish it at 2-2. So I think we will see a motivated Utah team. For Ottawa, Ottawa also played yesterday, and they played a fourth straight overtime game. And they're actually returning home from a road trip, and they're playing 3 games in the last 4 days. So Ottawa is actually in a worse spot here with more travel as well. And again, the return home spot, I always talk about how you can overlook that a little bit, and you can tend to overlook your opponent, especially with Utah. Even though they got off to a hot start, they've been bad recently. So Ottawa maybe in a spot where they're not going to totally pay attention here. I think they're probably going to finally arrest Ullmark again here would be my guess. We'll have to look at that starting goalie website that I usually look at. I'm not going to play this game, but probably going to be Merrill Lane in the net, although he's only played 2 games this year, so you can't really even figure out how good he's really been this year. He was awful in one of the games. Did beat my Boston Bruins, but lost to Buffalo. Ullmark is obviously the man for Ottawa, and I'm expecting that he's not going to play in this game because it's a back-to-back with travel, and up next, Ottawa does have Dallas. That's a big opponent, and they do have revenge against the Bruins upcoming, although, they've played the Bruins twice already, and they're 1-1 against them, but they did just lose to them. So we'll see, but with all this travel and all these games going into overtime, it's a pretty bad spot for Ottawa. They beat Philadelphia yesterday. Not that impressive of a win, but again, they had to put in effort, win that game in overtime. Traveling from Philadelphia back up to Ottawa. So Utah with less travel coming in from Montreal. I lean to Utah on this one. The money is agreeing with that. Ottawa down from -114 to -110. 60% of the tickets, 86% of the cash on Utah. Yep, I don't disagree with that. Seattle at Dallas. This one is kind of uninteresting. Dallas is a big favorite, and I think they're that way for a reason. Seattle, even though their record looks good, I don't think they're that good, although the money is coming in on Seattle. Dallas down from -236 to -217, 58% of the tickets on them, 62% of the cash though on Seattle. Seattle just beat St. Louis yesterday, which was a game where I thought Seattle was going to get caught. But Seattle was in a nice bounce back off of an ugly loss to San Jose and starting a road trip. It's just that I thought they might look ahead to Dallas, but they pulled it off in overtime, and that was with Grubauer in net last night for Seattle. So they will have their main goalie back in this game, Decord. They were saving him for Dallas, so at least there is that for Seattle. Dallas will have Ottinger in net, though, I believe, even though he's played 2 games in a row. Well, actually, I don't know, because they're on a back-to-back. They beat Nashville on the road yesterday. So it is, I guess, a little bit of a weird spot of the Dallas-Nashville. Not a huge travel amount there, but still something. They did use Ottinger in that game yesterday. Will they use him again? I'm thinking they might, because sometimes they do use him multiple games in a row like that, and even sometimes on the back-to-back, although they haven't had a back-to-back. Actually, they did have one back-to-back this year, and they actually used DeSmith in the back leg of it. So maybe they will actually be using DeSmith in this one, and maybe that's some of the reason why you're getting some of the money on Seattle there. If so, Seattle does have a little bit of a goaltending edge there at least. Calgary at Minnesota is basically the battle between 2 teams that are not as good as their records look, even though Calgary's record sucks. I think they're one of the worst teams in hockey. But they might be able to focus here because they lost in a bad game, a shutout to Chicago at home. They get to go out on the road now and focus on hockey, so maybe they will do just that. Kind of a bounce-back spot for Calgary here. Minnesota is not as good as people think they are. Minnesota's coming off a nice win over the Islanders that beat me the other night with Wallstedt in net. Minnesota's going to have Gustafsson back in net here, who is their better goalie, but even so, they're returning home from a little bit of a road trip, and they went to Carolina and the Islanders. Not a huge road trip, but trying to do that all in the span of 3 days. So 3rd game in 4 days, all in different cities. 4th game in 6 days, actually, with travel in between, in the middle of those 2 middle games there. So the spot doesn't set up as well from my perspective from Minnesota here. So I actually do like Calgary in this game. The money's agreeing. Minnesota's all the way down from -170 to -155. 51% of the tickets on Minnesota, 74% of the cash on Calgary. Not a play for me, but I agree with the Calgary side in that one. Oh, God, Nate, you're singing deep in the heart of Texas. Yeah, I forget how that song really goes. I'm not a Texan, obviously, but yeah. You like the Stars. Dude, the Stars, they should still be the Minnesota North Stars, man. Interestingly, Stars does make sense for being in Texas because they're the Lone Star State. Maybe they should be the Lone Stars. But they were the Minnesota North Stars, if you remember, if you're as old as I am. So they were the original Minnesota team, basically, at least as far as my perspective. Like, they were the team in Minnesota when I was young and whatever, and then they moved to Dallas. So I remember the Minnesota North Stars, man. And then Minnesota got the Wild as an expansion team later on. All right, Colorado at Vancouver. Colorado, I mean, they've been excellent this year. They only have one regulation loss. Colorado, they've been really good, but maybe the stock has reached kind of its peak on Colorado, because look at what they did yesterday, dude. They beat Edmonton 9-1. I mean, come on, man. Edmonton, everybody knows Edmonton's good. Winning the Western Conference last 2 years, and Colorado on the road just went in there and smoked them 9-1 yesterday. Looks like pretty much a classic letdown spot that Colorado's in here. I know they had a lot of rest before going to Edmonton. They were off for 3 days prior to that, so they're not going to be a tired team here, but they got to be feeling really, really good about themselves after that blowout win. Now they get to step down in class and face this mediocre Vancouver team. Vancouver is coming off a win themselves yesterday against Columbus. They're staying at home, so the travel spot's a little bit better for them, and they did have rest prior to that game too. 1 day fewer than Colorado did, but still rest, plus they're not traveling. So this sets up better for Vancouver, in my opinion. The money is agreeing with that too, although Colorado initially went up from -165 to -188. 57% of tickets on Colorado, 67% of the cash coming in on Vancouver. Obviously, I agree with it. I like Vancouver in this one. Haven't made it a play, though, so I don't know. I mean, the last game on the board is my other play. I'm tempted to make this a play. One of my hesitations was that the money looked like it was disagreeing with me at first. Are we going to add this as a play, or are we going to stay away from it? Oh, I don't know. I mean, again, you got to think Colorado's feeling really, really good about themselves, and probably they're actually going to switch goalies here. Blackwood has been their backup goalie. He only played one game for them so far, and let's actually take a look and see if it is going to be Blackwood here, because they lost that game to San Jose in his one game in net. Let me see if it's announced or anything like that for Colorado here. It looks like it is supposed to be Blackwood in net here against Lankinen for Vancouver. So Lankinen is Vancouver's second-string goalie as well, though, because they're on the back-to-back here. But Blackwood, I mean, he's had only one game so far this year, so he's kind of coming in cold. And actually, Lankinen has played more games than Demko the last couple of days. I don't know, man. I mean, they're both kind of alternating. I don't think there's that much of a downgrade for Vancouver between those two guys. This is definitely tempting. I do like Vancouver here. And then who does Colorado have next? Let me see. Because I did analyze this earlier, and the market read kept me off initially. Ooh, Colorado has Anaheim next when they come back home, and Anaheim has been really, really doing well so far this year, man. So maybe Colorado will actually be looking ahead. You know what? Let's add a play. We're going to go with Vancouver. I think this is going to be a money line play on Vancouver, but let's see what the money line price is here. Colorado's a pretty heavy favorite here, but let me see. What's the money line that we can get here? Avalanche. Ooh, it's at 165. What's the spread? We're going to do one of these split bets here. We're going to make it a +1 puck line to kind of alleviate some. Hold on. I'm going to do the calculation real quick here. Let me see here. Calculator. I apologize for this because I'm doing this on the fly here. I have this in a different tab too, but whatever. We're going to do this to win the typical 300. So I'm just going to do that just to see. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do it to win 100 just to see what the split is going to be more easily, what the percentages are. So you can get the +1.5 at -150 on this. And then the money line on this is +165, it looks like. So this is saying you want to put 60% basically on the -150 and 35% on the, well, wait a minute. What? 60%? Yeah. Wait, what? That doesn't make sense, does it? Now I'm confused. Oh, no, it's to win 100. That's why. I'm like, wait, what am I doing? You're not risking 100. You're risking more than 100 to win 100. What am I saying? So you actually create odds on this theoretical +1 puck line if you do it this way. With the split bet, the odds come up to +104. So that's actually pretty solid. So, yeah, that's the way I would do this to get that price in a better price range. I mean, you could go balls to the wall and play the plus 165 money line, and then you don't have to put as much at risk. If you want to do that, I'm not against it, but I'm going to do it more so that if they come within one, you're going to at least, well, if they come within one, you're going to push the bet. But of course, if they win, you're going to win the whole thing anyway. So you're putting more at risk by doing that. Wait, so is there a reason to do this then? Or should we do, what have I been thinking all these years? Should we just play the money line here then? Because you put less money at risk. Well, no, I guess you mitigate the risk by the fact that if you do this +1 puck line approach, if they lose by 1, you don't lose any money at all. I'm an idiot. That's why. Because if you play it on the money line, you'll lose your entire bet if you do that. So yeah, we're going to do it this way. All right. So yeah, we're going to call this, what are we calling this here? This is Vancouver, +1.5 at +150 at -150 and +165 on the money line. Is that what it was? Yep. All right. We're going to do that. All right. There's the Vancouver play. And then the last play in the NHL is going to be this last game. We're going to be on Winnipeg here. We're going to go money line on Winnipeg on this one. We're going to fade this Anaheim Duck team, man, that I'm still not completely buying, and the odds makers are not buying it either. So if you're looking at this game, you got to look at this and think, well, wait a minute. Why is Anaheim, who's 10-3-1 and also 4-1-0 at home, against Winnipeg, who's 9-5-0, which isn't bad, by the way, obviously, and 4-2-0, which also is not bad on the road. So Winnipeg's been good, and they've been pretty good on the road, too. Why is Winnipeg laying a price on the road against this Anaheim team that has a better record? Well, the odds makers are still telling you they're not totally buying Anaheim right now, and I am going to fade them in this spot. I like how this sets up for Winnipeg a little bit more. Anaheim's public because, of course, they are 82% of tickets. They look like a very rare, dreaded public home underdog here, which you don't usually see that. Usually the public likes favorites. I know the public doesn't play NHL that much, but 82% of tickets, 84% of the cash on Anaheim. So the money seems to be coming in slightly on Anaheim right now with the line dropping from -145 to -136 on Winnipeg. I still don't really buy it, though. Like, I think by the time this game tips off, I think you might see Winnipeg getting more of the cash. I mean, again, there's a reason why they're favored here. The public seems like they're coming in on the Anaheim side, and that is something I will definitely want to fade. When you see the public coming in on a home team that turns out to be an underdog, that's definitely a red flag to me. But looking at the scheduling spot, I think it's a fine spot for Winnipeg here. Winnipeg, they lost to San Jose on Friday, so you got to think they're really pissed off right now. They're 0-2 to start the road trip, and they scored 1 goal so far. Hellebuck has been in net. He probably will be again in this one because it's a big game against Anaheim. They may rest him in their next game, but he's like the best goalie in the league, man, and this has not been his problem. The fact that Winnipeg lost at LA and then at San Jose, Winnipeg just hasn't been able to score in those last couple of games, but they've improved their offense the last couple of years, so I expect their scoring to come back. They had a decent amount of rest between those two games. Bad showing against San Jose. Losing that game, you know they're going to be in a bounce-back spot if you're losing that game. Winnipeg actually dominated the face-off percentage in that game. They had more shots and more hits in the game, so Winnipeg outplayed San Jose in that game, so they were better than the scoreboard looked. We all know Winnipeg's better than San Jose. There's no question about that. Coming into Anaheim here, Anaheim, I know they've been on a roll. I know they're beating all these good teams. But like I said, at some point there has to be a letdown spot. And I think it might come here because, I mean, look at these wins that they've reeled off recently against Florida, Detroit, New Jersey, Florida, all those games at home. And yes, I know they're at home again here. They went on the road, beat Dallas. But again, they allowed 5 goals against Dallas. And then they beat Vegas in overtime yesterday. So Anaheim is on a back-to-back. They're on a 3rd game in 4 days, all in different cities, and they're returning home from a road trip. I know it was a quick road trip. They've only been away since Thursday, but still, I don't think this spot sets up very well, man. I think at this point it could be a letdown spot here. That was a big win in Vegas. They did have Mrazek in net there, so I know their top goalie, Dostal will be back in net here. So, yeah, that is true, but they do have Colorado coming up next, and that's a huge game because Colorado, their record is really good. I'm not saying Anaheim's going to overlook Winnipeg because Winnipeg's record is also good, but at some point they have to have some sort of down spot here, and I think it's going to be here on the back-to-back. They haven't had a back-to-back throughout this entire win streak that they've had. They've had a decent amount of rest between all these games, and now finally they don't, and they have travel here. A lot of that win streak was at home as well. I know they're back at home here, but with travel here now, I don't like it, man. With travel, with no days off, I think Winnipeg is definitely the right side here. We're going to go with Winnipeg in that one. So 3 hockey plays there. Mike Modano, yeah, I remember him. It's because he's sexy, right, Nate? Which I think he kind of is. He was probably like rated the most handsome hockey player or something. Blackwood is your goalie in fantasy. I don't know, man. Again, I think he's only played 1 game so far this year. I mean, he's a fairly experienced goalie, I think, because he did play last year for both Colorado and I believe San Jose. Is that where he was last year? But I don't know, man. NBA, I don't have any plays today, so I don't know. Houston at Milwaukee is a big game in the afternoon. Houston is actually favored in this game. So Oddsmaker's kind of telling you something with Houston being a favorite, even though these teams both have pretty good records, and people know that both these teams are good. Houston's up from a 3.5-point favorite to a 4-point favorite. 79% of tickets, only 54% of the cash on them, though. So Houston is public with the money kind of coming in against them. Now, we got to see, is there an injury here? Is that why Houston is that much of a favorite? Let me see. Giannis is a game-time decision, so I don't know. I mean, he's always listed as a game-time decision. He is probable, so that's not factoring into the line there. So Houston being a favorite seems just legitimate, which is crazy. Houston is that good, I guess, now. Houston, they did just lose to San Antonio, so I actually kind of disagree with the market here. I kind of agree with Houston here. I think it looks weird that you're laying points with Houston here. They just took a loss to San Antonio, so I think they might be in a bounce-back spot here. But they did lose a win streak, so I worry about it a little bit because when a team loses a win streak, sometimes it does hang them over into the next game. You know they kind of got up for that game against San Antonio because it was a big Texas game. So I can see both arguments here. Milwaukee, they're staying at home, but they did just crush Chicago at home. So you could argue that maybe they're in a little bit of a letdown spot off of that. So again, I could see it going both ways. The market is saying to take the points with the Bucks. I think it looks almost too easy to take the points with the Bucks, given what the team's records are. So it's a weird game. I'll stay away from it. My opinion in that game was slightly towards Houston, but I don't want anything to do with it. Brooklyn at New York. I mean, this is just awful. I mean, Brooklyn, yeah, they should get up for games against the Knicks because the Knicks are the, staple team in New York. Brooklyn's kind of the bastard child that originally was in New Jersey. New York has the more solidified fan base. The Knicks do. It's not even close. So I think that does motivate Brooklyn when they play New York, but they can't win every single time, obviously. Brooklyn, probably the worst team in the NBA this year. They did just take another loss after they got that win for us on the show against Indiana. They lost to Detroit. Not shocking, obviously. Now they're going back out on the road to face New York, although obviously they're only traveling between those two from Brooklyn to Manhattan, so obviously not a lot of travel there. The Knicks coming off just slaughtering Minnesota. That was a big win. That makes the Knicks look really good, and that was, of course, that little old Karl Anthony Towns versus Julius Randle thing there where they were involved in that trade before last year. That's a big win. I think that does make the Knicks look quite good. They've had a bunch of days off now, but the fact they were on a 3-game win streak, I think having multiple days off actually is not that helpful because you don't really have anything to work on during that break. It'll give you rest, but you don't have anything to fix. I think they might come into this game just thinking they're going to easily beat Brooklyn. So if I was going to play this, I would take the points with Brooklyn, but the money is totally disagreeing with me on this too. 74% of tickets on the Nets. 73% of the cash on the Knicks, who are up to a 15.5-point favorite. So the money's saying the Knicks. I don't agree with it, but not a play. I mean, I don't have any plays in the NBA today. Boston at Orlando. Celtics, not off to a great start. I mean, neither of these teams really are, but Orlando's trying to change their identity this year. It's just really weird, but this is a zigzag spot because the Celtics did just lose at Orlando by double digits, and this game was actually closer than it looked on the scoreboard. The Celtics are actually winning this game pretty late in the game, and then they completely fell apart. in the second half of the fourth quarter. I mean, this game was tied, or Celtics were up 1, actually. It was 6 minutes left. The Celtics were winning the game. And then they fell apart. Orlando did shoot kind of ridiculously in the game. 47.2% from 3. That's a major outlier. 50% from the field. Little bit of an outlier there. So you got to think the Celtics playing the same game again. The line is almost the same at Orlando around 3. You got to expect the Celtics are going to be the team to make the adjustments. The final score was not really indicative of what happened in that game. Orlando had a bit of an outlier shooting game. I would lean to the Celtics to zigzag and bounce back here. You're actually getting a little bit more value at the Magic at 4 here this time. But again, I'm disagreeing with the market. 77% of tickets on the Celtics, 71% of the cash on Orlando. I don't buy it. I think it's kind of a classic zigzag spot. I would take the points with the Celtics. And hopefully, because they are my team, but I'm not expecting that much from them this year, obviously. But again, it's not a game that I really want to get involved in. I mean, that's the only angle that I see with that one. Oklahoma City bounced back after their first loss. They got a blowout win at Sacramento. Now they're finishing the road trip, but they're actually traveling from the Pacific time zone with only 1 day off all the way to Memphis. So this is kind of a bad spot, I think, for the Thunder. And they do have to face the Warriors and then the Lakers on Tuesday and Wednesday. So it is possible they overlooked this Memphis team that's just been kind of a mess. But Memphis is chaotic. Like, they can beat really good teams and they can lose to really bad teams. Memphis did just end that loss streak that they had. So I think that's good for Memphis. They're staying at home. They had a 4-game loss streak, and they beat Dallas, which is not going to make them overconfident because Dallas has also been bad. But I think what that will do is it'll give Memphis just the right amount of confidence coming into this game and break that losing momentum. So I would take the points with Memphis in this one if I was going to play it. Money, again, disagreeing with me. Thunder up from 9.5 to 10.5. 70% of the cash on them. 71% of tickets on the Grizzlies. But I would lean to the Grizzlies in this one. So again, market read against me in literally every game. It's crazy. Detroit at Philadelphia, which I think Jeffrey was talking about this game. Well, one of you guys, I think it was Jeffrey, right? Detroit off to a 7-2 start. Maybe they look too good, but they're coming off an easy win over Brooklyn. I mean, Detroit's had a somewhat easy schedule, though. I mean, this win streak that they're currently on, the wins were against Orlando, Dallas, although that was in Mexico City, Memphis, Utah, and Brooklyn. So that's not a very impressive run of games there. So they are stepping up in class a little bit to have to face Philadelphia here. Philadelphia coming off beating Toronto at home, which was yesterday, though. So they're on a back-to-back, but they did have multiple days off before that. Yeah, they do have Boston again next. They're playing Boston so many times early in the season. It's crazy, and that will be revenge because they did just lose to Boston on Halloween. But are they going to overlook Detroit, who's 7-2 to start the season? I don't really think so. I think the stock is probably a bit too high on Detroit right now with this recent run. So, again, I'm going to disagree with the market. The Pistons are up from 2.5 to 4 here. 77% of tickets on the Sixers, 94% of the cash on the Pistons. I would agree with the Sixers in this game. And so I'm disagreeing with the market all over the place, man. And, of course, you do have to look at what the injury situations are going to be. Tobias Harris looks like he's out for Detroit. So that's one of their guys. I don't know if he's played this year, though. I think he has, right? He's a little bit older now, but yeah, he's been playing this year, so he's out. So that's one injury for Detroit here that is of some concern. Sixers, it's always Embiid. Like, is he going to play or is he not? He's a game-time decision again here. He gets a lot of rest. He played yesterday, so it is possible that he gets rested here, and maybe that's part of the reason why the line is where it is. But, I mean, even if he does, I would probably lean to taking the points with Philly there, because Embiid, I mean, he's got a bad knee and whatever. Indiana at Golden State. Golden State's down from a 13.5-point favorite to a 12.5-point favorite, 96% of the tickets and cash, so they're very, very public. Indiana's having to come in off playing Denver, though. And they played Denver yesterday, so they're having to go back-to-back elevation out to the Pacific Coast. That's not easy to do, even though they had some rest before they started the road trip against Denver. They're probably going to show up or try because it's the Warriors, and they're trying to salvage the last game of the road trip. The Warriors just faced Denver as well on Friday, and now they're returning home from a road trip, but they do have a day off at least to return home. And their only other game on the road trip was a close trip to Sacramento. So really it was just a road trip, pretty much just to Denver. Now they're coming back, but it's possible they overlook Indiana because they do have Oklahoma City up next. So Golden State might be looking ahead to Oklahoma City, but they did actually lose at Indiana back on November 1st. So that may keep Golden State motivated here because they lost Indiana. But even if they show up and they're going to want to win this game, it doesn't mean they're going to cover the number. So I don't know, man. I mean, again, I would definitely not want to lay a highly public favorite like this, big favorite like this. But I don't even know if I have an opinion on this one, to be honest. I mean, the market is kind of saying you should take the points with the Pacers. There's no way I'm going to do that on a back-to-back, though. And I think the Warriors might show up because they did lose to the Pacers earlier. So I could see the arguments for maybe laying it with the Warriors there. You got to see what's going on with the Warriors' injury situations, though, because Curry has been out recently. He's a game-time decision. Horford is a game-time decision. Indiana, of course, we know has a ton of injuries. Toppin looks like he's not coming back basically this season until later in the season. Mathurin is still out. So some injuries there. And, of course, Halliburton probably missing the entire season. So, yeah, and then the final game on the board is T-Wolves and Kings. The T-Wolves are a 5.5-point favorite. Kings look like they're a public home underdog right now, 88% of the tickets and cash. I would not buy that Sacramento is getting public action here against the T-Wolves. Even though the T-Wolves are only 5-4, still I think the T-Wolves have this perception of a pretty good team, and they are. They did just bounce back after that ugly loss in New York. Even though they were returning over from a road trip, they absolutely slaughtered Utah. Now they're going back out on the road. Usually you are focused when you start a road trip. They have momentum here, so I don't think it's necessarily a bad spot for Minnesota. Sacramento only at 3-6, coming in they're staying at home, off a blowout loss to Oklahoma City, and that was after they beat Golden State the game before that. Sacramento did. Zach LaVine looks like he's missed some games here. I don't know if it looks like he may be playing though, so I don't know. Maybe he's just had some bad games where he wasn't on the stat sheet. Sabonis is the guy you got to look at for Sacramento here because he's been out. He's questionable. He has not played since the 3rd, so you got to see if he's going to be back in the lineup. If he comes back, then it kind of becomes a reverse injured player spot for Sacramento too, because he is their best player, basically. So if he comes back, I think that's a strike for Sacramento. The line seems to be indicating that he might not be playing today, though, with the T-Wolves at 5.5. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with the T-Wolves side here, and I would like it if Sabonis is going to come back, and then the line, the line would move further towards the T-Wolves, the line would move towards the Kings. What am I saying? If Sabonis comes back, yeah, so you'll get a better number on the T-Wolves if Sabonis comes back. So that would be my recommendation in that game is wait, see if Sabonis is going to play, and then if he does, the line should move back a little bit towards the Kings, and then you can come in and take the T-Wolves at a lower price. Anyway, that's going to do it, man. My plays today one more time. Go check out my NFL show. But we have the Miami Dolphins plus the points, Baltimore Ravens minus the points, and in the night game, the Chargers minus the points. College basketball, we have Western Michigan plus 8, Bowling Green minus the points, Loyola Chicago, somewhere around a pick'em price. Hockey, we have the 60-minute line on the LA Kings to win in regulation. Get the price down on that. Vancouver, a make-your-own +1 puck line on that one. And Winnipeg, money line. And no NBA. Final NFL read real quick here. The Falcons are tied with the Colts right now, by the way. So I think I did wind up taking the Falcons plus the 6.5 or whatever it was, even though I recommended kind of against that a little bit. Just because the number was on the key side of 7, or the right side of the key number. But Falcons actually are up 14-13 now. So I think in my ESPN pick'em, I do have the Falcons plus the points in that one. But we'll see what happens there. I am a Colt fan, though, so I'm at least rooting for the Colts. But the fact the Falcons are up by 1 kind of skews it back towards, being kind of off of that key number of 7 now. The market read looks like there is money coming now back on the Jets a little bit, taking the +2, although I know in pick'em the Jets are a favorite, but it's kind of a pick the winner price. The market read is saying the Jets. I know my situational read was kind of saying Browns a little bit, but it wasn't that strong, so I won't disagree with the Jets in that one for the final market read here. slight lean, I guess, that way. Market read, of course, I wasn't going to change my opinion on Saints plus the points. I agree with that side. Dolphins, of course, one of my plays. The market read is shaping up correctly on that one. Market read is still saying Jaguars against the Texans, even though my initial impression was kind of the opposite of that. A lot going on in that game to try to figure out, man. So maybe the market is the way to go there. Market read is kind of saying the Jaguars right now. Although I think the price in pick'em might be a little bit worse, but it still might be kind of a pick the winner situation there, though. Ravens look like they're still, even though they're a little bit of a public side, it looks like the Ravens are still getting the actual money too. So hopefully that's right, because that's one of my plays. Money is coming in on the Buccaneers. I do agree with that side. I would lean to that side. Money is coming in on the Bears, but I still disagree with the Bears. I would take the points with the Giants in that game. Money is still coming in slightly on the Seahawks in the 4 p.m. slate, but I disagree with that too. We'll see if the late market reads on those kind of shape up the way that I expect, because the cash percentage on those is on the public side right now, and it's not that much of a disparity, so we'll see. Although you could argue that the same is the case with the Ravens, but I'm relying on my situational reads here. I would take the Cardinals plus the points in that one. The money is saying the Lions, even though they're heavily public. And that one I struggle with, because I do think the Lions are in a big revenge spot, so I do expect them to show up. The question is really just the number, and I do think the number is a little bit too high, but I don't know, man. I mean, I'm not going to knock you if you want to lay the points with the Lions, in your pick'ems and whatever, even though they're a heavily public side. 57% of tickets, 62% of cash on the Rams. The money is still indicating on the Rams a bit, and I think on ESPN the line's still like 3.5, so I think the Rams probably make sense there. The money's agreeing with my Chargers play still, so I agree with that. I like that one. And tomorrow night, the money is still indicating on the Eagles for now, but as you know, I like the Packers in that game. We'll see if I wind up getting there with a play. It remains to be seen, but that's going to do it. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Learn to Toad on Twitter, learn to Toad on Instagram. Like, subscribe to the channel here, man. Give me good comments. Give me a good review on Apple and Spotify. Listen over there. That helps me out as well. Covered in Uke is my Uke channel on YouTube, so you can go check that out. And then patreon.com/learntotode. Bonus Uke Spotify feed there and requests. Let's have a good day today, man. Let's get some wins. We got a bunch of plays today again. This is what happens in college basketball season. We had, I think, 13 plays yesterday, and we have 9 today. It's a grind, but hopefully we're being selective in the right ways, and hopefully we're going to get some of these plays. That's going to do it for now. Peace, guys.